Thanks everyone for joining our team performance webinar. We've done this as a series. If you want to watch any past webinars, you can go to our Churchill website. Today we're going to focus on how to solve big business challenges with barrier-busting teams. And I'm delighted to interview today the Team Accelerator innovator and architect, Renee Eridge. And Renee will get a chance to introduce herself in just a few moments. If you have just joined us, take a maybe screenshot of this slide and then take a look at it and add letter or number of maybe some of the business challenges that your organization is currently facing. Today's objectives is to challenge why Team Accelerator. Why is this innovative approach so good? Why is it unique to developing teams really effectively? Learn how it's helping companies tackle their real life business challenges, the ones that are relevant and current to them today. And also find ways that you can actually experience for yourself in a low risk, safe to try way, Team Accelerator for yourself. Before we jump into that, I'm going to take about 2 minutes to whiz through about Churchill Leadership Group. For some of you that don't know our organization, our mission is to empower talent to thrive. We do that by building the leadership and team mindsets, behaviors, and soft skill capability needed in the world of work today to succeed. We do that through coaching, team coaching, one-on-one coaching, and relevant learning journeys with bite-size, constant experiential practice so that the change that we empower by working with you sticks. We also have a strengths accelerated methodology because only 20% of us are showing up at work using our strengths every day, which is a crying shame. So we help you by identifying people's natural talents and putting them to work as they grow and become more engaged. We actually have 400 coaches. We're updating the slide around the globe. Visually, you can see where we're spread. We cover most of the areas that our clients work. And it's a very diverse team, diverse in terms of gender, expertise, background, culture, race, everything you can think of in diversity. We purposely built a very diverse team to meet your diverse needs. And we bring you 4 signature solutions. As you can see on the screen here, these have been delivered virtually and in person, even before COVID. They're accelerated by strengths, and the area we're focused on today is team coaching and development. Just a snapshot of some of our clients who we are very proud to partner with. And myself, I run the business. I'm a coach, team coach, individual coach, executive coach, but really I'm running the business, growing the business, and the first point of contact when you choose to work with Churchill. Then I bring in amazing coaches to do the work with you. So let's hear from our expert chief architect and founder of Team Accelerator. Renee, tell us more about yourself.
And hey, Jane, and thanks for having me. My name is Renee Eridge, and I actually grew up in technology. So I'm a technologist turned talent enthusiast and have spent about the last 12 years creating learning experiences, many of them actually with Churchill and Jane. So I might actually know some of you on this webinar. Hey. So I approach employee development with an absolute commitment to move employees from knowing to doing to being. And for those of you that are also trying to do that, you probably are right there along with me in knowing just how tough that really is. So I've spent about the last 7 years creating and launching innovative programs that are really focused on enabling individual growth, but also creating system-wide transformations. And I've had the privilege of working with Jane and the Churchill Leadership Group and Mindy, who you're going to meet in a moment, to implement a lot of these learning experiences. And so when I started designing the Team Accelerator, I knew that team-oriented coaching was going to be a super important variable to the experience, which you will get to learn about today. And so it was a no-brainer for me to give Jane a call and see about partnering up to really bring this thing to life.
Thank you, Renee. And let me just add a little more. I mean, there aren't many of us that come from the perspective of the business and technology and have the HR experience that Renee has. So when we look across your business, what's needed for your talent to really grow and deliver on what the business needs. Renee is coming from all areas, and what she shares is extremely practical and relevant. So thank you, Renee. Mindy, please share.
Hey everyone, my name is Mindy Morrow. I've been working with Jane and the fantastic talent at Churchill Leadership Group for going on 7 years now. It's hard to believe, Jane, we've been together this long. I also grew up mostly in leadership roles in technology, engineering, some of the scientific fields. So I too sort of have grown up in business as a leader and in mostly high-tech areas and different organizations in the Fortune 500 world, as well as the rapidly growing entrepreneurial side. And I believe that the field of organization development and coaching sort of found me. I became fascinated as a leader as to how human beings become productive and engage in their work in a really, really high performance manner. And I dedicated myself full-time to the field of organization development almost 25, 30 years ago. It seems like it's been a long time. And what I love about the field is not only working at the individual and the organizational level, but now the team level. And I'm really excited to be partnering with Renee and Churchill Leadership Group to talk about the accelerator with you today. So thanks, ladies.
Thank you. There's a ton of expertise in our guests today, so do not be shy with your questions. The way we're going to do this and to try and bring you as much value as our audience as possible is for me to interview our guests, and we will use some chats and poll. Really encourage you to ask whatever questions or whatever thoughts are going through your mind in the chat. All right. We'll also reach out after this to give you an opportunity to try what you've heard in a low risk, easy way. So you'll have a follow-up email, but really make the most of being here in person with us today and ask your questions, share your thoughts. While we have great expertise here on the panel, the expertise in our audience is real in-depth and diverse. So by sharing your thoughts and asking your questions, you will help each other. If you want to speak out loud, we're open to that. We just mute everyone just for background noise. Raise your hand and I'll unmute you. I'd love to hear anything that you'd like to share. And we'll also unmute towards the end, assuming we have time. Okay, so first question for Renee. Why did you take the time to design and bring Team Accelerator to the world?
Thanks, Jane. So I'd love to start talking about Team Accelerator from the point of view of a problem that I'm sure I certainly faced when I was doing leadership development inside companies. And it's basically that we're investing enormous amounts of money, and I mean an enormous amount, to develop our people. Leadership development alone in the United States, annually, we invest $41 billion to do that. And the thing is, though, is that the positive impact to the business, like the transfer of individual growth to business results, is tricky. Like, it's hard to measure, it's hard to really know. You start to talk about interpersonal skills, and being able to draw that line is hard. Today, I want to talk about why that is, and then unpack how the Team Accelerator can really change this for your business. And there are 3 reasons. Next slide, Jane. So I don't know. I love this BC Quest cartoon because I really just think it exemplifies what it's like to go and learn inside our companies right now. And the big call out I want to make is that we don't think about teams. Instead, we place the burden on single individuals, mainly frontline managers, to grow themselves and those around them, all while delivering the month, the quarter, and the year. As I've created multiple programs for Fortune 500, Fortune 100 brands, not one time did a leader ever approach me and say, let's build something amazing for the entire team. And so then the people that we decide to develop must leave their work back at their desk, while those that weren't invited feel left out, forgotten, and overlooked. And then, this is the part that we all know and love, then excited participants, or us, because I'm sure we've all done this before, we come back from these experiences ready to integrate them into our day-to-day, but the team that we left behind isn't with us anymore, right? So those ideas often kind of lose their steam when we go back into our organization, or what you'll hear, into our system. And it's really difficult for these learning experiences to give the support to participants to help them integrate those insights into their day-to-day once they go back to their desks and their job. The second reason, if you go to the next slide, Jane, is that we focus on building individual skills instead of overcoming organizational barriers. So when I was head of leadership development at eBay, a bunch of really smart people turned to me and they said, Renee, we have got to help our managers. We have this huge strategic initiative to roll out at the highest levels of our business, and we need our managers to be able to do all these things. So can you put together an experience to teach our managers how to do all these things? And I took one look at this list and I was like, oh, whoa, that's a lot of things to learn. I mean, if this is everything we need them to learn, and this is just the basics, maybe the problem we need to solve isn't the problem we think we need to solve. And so I convinced everybody to give me like a month and a half, and we spun up this tiger team to use user-centered design and interviewed hundreds of managers and employees. And what we discovered was that the problem actually wasn't a lack of skills. As I know you all know, we actually have great people working for us at our businesses. The problem that we were able to uncover was that they weren't able to make the progress they needed and do the work they needed to do because of all the barriers and the friction and the red tape. Jane, give me a click. Most training makes skill building the goal, and that is important, but it's not just about skill building. It's about helping whole teams overcome their biggest barriers so they can make meaningful progress together. So when you think about the poll we took at the beginning, wouldn't you rather our learning be focused on solving business challenges like this rather than individually trying to tackle the capabilities kind of behind this right now? And then the third challenge is one of my favorites, and it is, if you can move to the next slide, Jane, there's nothing easy about change in our organizations. BJ Fogg is a good friend of mine, and he's the founder of Stanford's Behavior Design Lab, and he has been researching behavior and how to design for behavior change for a long time. And he'll tell you that for people to change their behavior, they must both be motivated to do it. It basically means you have to give them something to change that they already want to do. And they have to have the ability to make the change. And these two elements are interconnected, which means the less motivated people are to make a change, the easier you have to make that change actually be. And so these concepts have been blowing my mind for a while, because in most of our organizations, change is a big, complex, driven from the top kind of thing that usually includes emails like effective immediately, ... right? And because it's something that's happening to us, AKA low motivation, and there's no clear recipe for success, AKA it's not easy, our people are rarely able to adopt and scale change successfully. So here's the thing about these three challenges: individuals versus teams, skills versus barriers, and complex change versus continuous participatory change, is that it's all by design. And I want to tell you why, and then this question will be done because I know it was a long answer, but here's why. So Jane, can you hop to the next slide for me? Okay, meet Frederick Taylor. So he is the founder of scientific management, and back in the 1900s, when we were all kicking off our assembly line industrialization, everything was really very much apprenticeships and individual creative approaches, and it was just slow going. And so Frederick Taylor said, hey, we can speed up productivity and really get these assembly lines cranking in the most effective ways possible, but everybody needs to do it the same way. And this really took hold, and almost everything around work is based on these concepts. And so what happened is leaders created processes and became managers that think, and everyone else learned to follow the processes and became workers that do. Workers started to look to managers for the best way and build the skill they needed to succeed on the line. And managers took on owning, ensuring perfect execution with sound processes and decisions, and focused on solving problems. Rules and policies defined what was okay, and decision-making solidified into the powerful few, or those willing to lose their jobs. Compliance cultures emerged and look a lot like this. Jane, give me a click. This looks familiar. I don't know, this looks like my old office building. So in the past, our role as managers was to ensure this perfect execution and ensure everything goes according to plan. But now everything is so, I mean, we all know the word VUCA, right? It's all uncertain and volatile and ambiguous. It's complex. That's really what it comes down to. So it's no longer possible. We can't be sure what's going to work. We can't be sure that the thing that worked in the last part of our career is the right approach now. And so we really have to be open to teams solving problems for themselves. And we don't actually want perfect execution anymore. We don't want one best way. What we want is adaptability. What we want is problem solving at every level, in every team, in every person. And that is the point of the accelerator.
Yeah. There's a lot of strong why behind that, Renee. And there are a couple of things that resonated with me. Your first point about we develop leaders and leave the team behind. I remember back in, it was the year 20 years ago now, I remember. And I went through a program that taught me how to coach inside an organization, similar to our Leader is Great coach program. But my team, the people then I was going to go home and coach, my sales team, weren't given insight to it. Yes, I gave them a bit of insight, but one of them said to me, Jane, are you okay? You're acting differently, right? They had no context that I was now trying to coach them. And so that was a huge learning for me that if we're really going to make a change that's going to affect the business, it can't be the leaders in isolation. And we certainly involve individual contributors now in our Leader is Great coach program, but it felt really real for me. The second thing that I sort of connects a little is the difficulty, right? And it came out in some of the chat from our audience around leaders working in the business versus on the business. And what did come out for me when I learned to coach in the early years, it was like this weight was off my shoulder. Like once we got through the clunkiness of me learning to coach and my team figuring out what I was trying to do, and it started to work, it felt like there's a lot of the weeds that I was in, the stuff that I was doing that was either not necessary because I was getting in the way, or the team did it better if they were empowered to do so. And if I reflect to some of the research, such as the research on intrinsic motivation by Dan Pink, two of the things are I want to be empowered and I want mastery. I want to keep growing. So to do things without the team involved, to figure out what the team needs to perform better, just seems crazy, right? We get asked for a lot of team bonding, new team, bring the team together, get to know the team, but truly empowering the team to accelerate the work they do better, to be agile, to solve in the moment, we're not doing that. And yet that is where most of the work happens in organization, is at a team level, regardless of level of team, regardless of type of team, they're doing the work.
And it's not our fault that we're here. That's the thing I guess I wanted to say with the slide is there's a lot of really good reasons why our mindset is the way it is. And to shift it, I've always found that to help shift it, recipes for success are super helpful. And so that's really what the accelerator is. It's an evolutionary leader going, I think there must be a better way than the way it is today. And the accelerator saying, oh, there is. Let me help you to take those steps. Let's do it together.
So audience, please, if you have any thoughts, comments, if you disagree with something that you're hearing, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Pressure test us. Keep us on our toes here. Would you like me to move forward, Renee?
Yeah, I'm going to hand it to Mindy too for this next question.
So Mindy, what elements of the Team Accelerator do you consider unique and effective that you'd like our audience to hear?
Yeah, thanks, Jane. So back to a point to build on what Renee said, we have what we have because that's our design. And I would say, bottom line, the one thing that distinguishes the accelerator is the design. The learning takes place inside the work of the team while also teaching the team a method for becoming a barrier busting team of superheroes. So it's not the separate learning, not the separate skill building or the individual skill building. It's as a whole team inside their whole system. If you'll advance to the next slide, Jane, I'd love to ask our audience, and I'd invite you to type into the chat, what do you see when you see this graphic here on this slide? What do you see, or what does this graphic make you think of? Please type into the chat if you would. And as soon as we get some input here, I'll continue on with what makes us unique. So I see yes, moving from the ineffective to the effective. Thank you, Melanie.
As people are typing, Mindy, one thing that really resonates with me when I saw this was the bottom right, the isolation that's been created through everything we've been going through with COVID to relationships. And even the word connectedness, inclusion just really sort of resonated with me in addition to the relationships.
Absolutely. And so, and thank you for that. Static to inclusionary, ineffective to effective. It's out of isolation in the relationship. We thought this was a great graphic to represent what distinguishes the accelerator in that it's a system and it helps the system learn as a system. So I play tennis competitively and I play doubles, particularly because my knees won't allow me to play singles. And I found a tennis pro that really has made a difference in my game. And when I think about what it is that she does in her approach, yes, we build individual skills. It's important for us to learn the shots and it's important for us to learn the strategy. She really takes my game to the next level because she works with myself and my doubles partner and the doubles team that we're playing, and she coaches the system. So we see the game in a different light. She helps us understand the game as a system. And I can tell you, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, the reason I spend so much time is because I want to win more games. Because if I win more games, I win more matches, ergo results. So that's exactly what makes the Team Accelerator unique. The learning and the problem solving takes place inside the team with the team's own work. So we'll get into how it works a little bit later, but the way it's designed is for the team itself to accomplish and identify the barriers and work as a team to work through that. So it addresses the problem, the challenges that Renee talked about, 1 and 2, of the individual versus the team, and focusing more on skills than the barriers and that the organizations and teams are facing. The second thing that I mentioned is it teaches them a method. So I know when I got my organization development degree and master's, the premise was leave people more capable and more skilled than when you were there. So the idea behind the accelerator is that the teams learn methods that are sustainable, that help them become those barrier identifying and barrier busting teams that they can repeat and scale themselves long after the engagement's over, long after we've gone, which helps address problem number 3 or challenge number 3, which is that change is hard and there's really great ways to make it easy. Renee, what else do you have to add about why the accelerator is so unique and different?
What I'd love to talk about is the whole system part of it. I get really excited about how each role inside the accelerator, like the part that they play, and how we've designed it quite purposefully. The first experiments were insightful when we were piloting the accelerator, but we designed it to amplify the strengths of every part of the system: individual, team, and organization. So what that means is that the participants are in action solving real problems. They're real problems. They source the problems. They run experiments. They identify what we call alternative practices, which we'll talk about later, and go try things out in the real world on the job. So this was really important to me because I didn't want that round wheel, square wheel analogy to continue through the accelerator. I wanted the participants to be able to successfully integrate the work of learning with the work of meeting their objectives inside the business. And I think we commonly have to battle against a belief that learning is a thing you do separate from delivering to your goals. The Team Accelerator really aims to dismantle that and say, no, learning is what you do as you're delivering your goals. And there's a way to do that in a really effective manner. Also, we really focus on whole team. So if you're in a prep call with us, if you're a business leader and you're talking about the accelerator with us, one of the first things we'll say is, which products or services are most important to you right now for your bottom line, for your goals, and who are the teams that are critical to delivering them. And we'll challenge you to think outside just product development or just engineering. Okay, well, who's the HR person that supports them? Who's your finance guy? What happens if they're together doing this work together? And so we really do a whole team. And by the way, senior leaders, you too. But we have a different track for them, right? So executives, they get almost like a parallel track where we provide, we analyze what's happening as coaches, as Team Accelerator coaches, and come and say, okay, executives, here is the problem that your cohort is working on. Here's what we're observing, both in that work and in their interpersonal relationships with each other as they do this work. And here's recommendations that we have for you to consider at the system level. And so in most cases, maybe an executive might purchase a really amazing experience for his team, but he might not actually participate in that experience. We see that a lot with Leaders Coach. Have seen that in the past, and then they're not aware of what's going on. There's all this amazing capability being built. In that case, it's coaching. It's amazing capability being built, but then they try to come back, but they're returning to the same system. And it's really hard as an individual to make system-wide influence and change if the system's not kind of shifting with you. By bringing the executives into the work with us, we get to help them figure out how to do the right work to support the capabilities that are now coming back. And then finally, the coaches are spending time coaching and diagnosing. They usually partner with your HR partner because your HR partner knows all these great and juicy things about the interpersonal dynamics of the organization. And then together, those two go, oh, here's what we're seeing here, and it might mean this. Let's talk to the executives about that. So that's what I get most excited about.
Renee, I'd like to reinforce a couple of points that you both have said and sort of really call them out for the audience in terms of tips as they think through where they need to develop teams this year, and an approach and the critical thinking that I think we're trying to get across to our audience around when they come to develop teams, the things they need to think about. I think one of the first ones is start with the business problem. And while a team might be working on that business problem, who is missing? Because very often key stakeholders are missing up front. They may be pulled in later when they realize, oh, we need so-and-so, but often that's too late. And to bring in early is important. It's like that. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Slow down up front and think, who are the stakeholders that need to be on? And they may not be on the team, but they're a critical part to enable that team to be successful. The second is system. I've been through multiple team coaching certifications over the last few years, and a systems approach to teams is proven in the research to be a really wise and critical part of team development. So folks, when you're thinking about helping a team get better, think about what is the system, right? Who are the people they serve? Who are the people they rely on? Who are the people in the team? Because often teams, just like in a family, we're so involved in the team, we're not seeing our habits. We're not seeing how we do things and how some of them we can do better and other things are just getting in our way. And so we have to shine the light on the whole system to understand what's the grit, what's the grit as in the friction, or what's getting in the way. And the third one is change. You talked about if senior leaders aren't involved and then the team go out and try and do this great work and the senior leader isn't on board, that can undo the great work. And so I'm going to share with the audience a change management acronym, which I use almost daily in many ways, including in our programs. It's called ADKAR, ADKAR. Mindy, if you could type that into the chat for me, just the acronym. A is awareness. Don't do anything until your team is aware of why the change is needed, aware of where they are before they move forward. The second one is desire. You can't push people through a change. You're going to have to create a level of desire, explore the desire for them to do so. K is knowledge, know how to change. What is it we want to do different? A is ability, practice, practice, practice. Like Renee says, you don't want to go learn over here. You want to practice with the work that's on your desk to know that you actually can do it. Otherwise, it's just knowledge, right? More stuff in my brain. And the R speaks to what Renee said at the end, reinforcement. What can undo the good work if we don't think about it and put it in place? And that could be a senior leader not involved because, like, just go work with my team. They need it. I don't. It has to be inclusive. It has to be a system. Hopefully that helps. Anything else before I move on the slide here, Mindy, Renee?
I'd love to just build on that one quick connection there. So Jane is like a change management guru. She's done like a million learnings on change, which is so valuable for our work. And then the connection I want to make is this process, ADKAR, when you're thinking about it as a manager trying to drive change into a group of people, can feel really overwhelming, which is why think about what happens if you flip it and say, okay, rather than top down, what if I try this same concept, like continuous participatory change, where it's my workers, my employees, and my contractors that are telling me what needs to change, right? So then your work is reinforcement and removing barriers for them. But they're doing all the steps now because they're already motivated. They already know what needs to happen. They have the desire, they have the awareness, they have the knowledge, right? And so that's really what the Team Accelerator is all about, is creating a recipe for you to drive change through this method Jane just spoke of, but worker-led instead of led by senior leaders.
And to build on that, value-led. So a nod to Clifford for talking about that dreaded four-letter word of silo. We design our organizations in ways that we think helps people get work done, only to realize that that's not how work gets done at all. So it's definitely a way to get the team to think as a system on a problem that they share, regardless of the organization functions or silos that they work in. So thanks, and just a nod to you, Clifford, for bringing that out.
Thank you. That feels so freeing as a leader, that not only do you empower teams, you have the teams empower themselves to be empowered, right? They do the work. All right, cool. Thank you. Audience, questions? What's coming up for you? Maybe you've got an example that you're facing in your organization you'd like to share and get some feedback from experts, Renee and Mindy.
And if folks want to speak, they can raise their hand, right? They can push
They can, and I can unmute them. We'd love to hear from you in person. I think I'd see a hand if they came up. If you're putting your hand up and Jane can't see it, just say in the chat, unmute me. We can do it that way as well. One of the things that I see often, because I'm that sort of first touch point, that a client, hang on, Seth, let me bring Seth into here. Well, my mouse is having the jigglers here. Allowed to talk. Seth, please speak to us.
Okay. Hi, Jane.
Great to see you.
Yeah, no, likewise. Thank you. Yeah, I have an opportunity to maybe share an example of some challenges or opportunities to overcome some obstacles that my organization is currently going through. We're a very small company, but about 3 to 4 months ago, we acquired a new asset. Along with that asset, we acquired a small part of a clinical team. One of the folks is a chief commercial or a chief operational officer. And, there's quite a bit of time difference between the teams, and age difference, and just style. So one of the opportunities that we have been working together is kind of infusing, this newer, younger, faster moving team into a more, I would say, highly regulated area. Everything from CMC manufacturing to regulatory communications. So that's something that we're facing, and I'm just really intrigued about this model and how that may be able to help the two organizations coming together.
Jane, do you want me to speak to that a little bit, or?
Please do. I've
Or
got
just,
some thoughts I can add after, but you go first, please.
yeah, okay. So Seth, thanks for being here, one, and thanks for throwing a question out. The situation that you just described is like the perfect Petri dish for the accelerator. The reason why is because the whole objective of it is to help individuals do the work of thinking about how do I do the best work of my life, and then sharing all those differentiated like experiences and points of view with each other to identify ways to move forward together, right? So through the work of sharing and experimenting, both individually and then collectively, you start to see this silo feeling turn more into synthesis. We have a client right now where we're seeing this. It's like old school automotive. You know, there's leaders there that have been doing this for a long time. They've got a young team in the warehouse, and the young team's like really eager and has a lot of ideas. And you know, when we first started the accelerator with them, they were a little bit mired in learned helplessness, meaning they didn't feel like they had any authority to claim. And most of the senior leaders were like, why are we doing this? What got me here will get me there. It's fine, you know? And over time, you just saw, we taught them some concepts around decision making and really practice. One of the big ones is just asking what's safe to try. We really saw, we've been working with them for 14 weeks, and we really saw a softening across the group. So very different people, multiple divisions, similar challenges, coming together, sharing their experiences. Right away, the workers were like, oh, I'm really good at this. I'll help you. Because one of the first missions is just like, what's the productivity problem stopping you right this moment? And it just started, oh, I'm not alone. Oh, wow, you're having that problem too. And so there's a lot of opportunity through this approach for you to bring people together. And it's, I wouldn't say it's gentle, but it's savvy in how it gets people to shift their mindset in subtle ways.
Just to build on that point, Renee, and thank you, Seth, for bringing this great example to light. These were 3 individual companies brought together, and the senior leadership team and CEO completely saw the opportunity and synergies of the 3 divisions coming together, and was quite stopped in helping the 3 divisions learn from one another in terms of the capabilities. One was an engineering organization and prototyping. The other 2 were in the component and fastener businesses. And he was just very frustrated about why there wasn't more traction and why people weren't working together and why they weren't leveraging their sister companies. And to Renee's point, they weren't even thinking of one another, much less working with one another, until they all began to experience the work in the accelerator. So it really fostered accelerated development and learning about the other divisions, as well as ways of working together and a more cohesive view from the senior partner team. And they're still working together.
Seth, what's going through your mind? Oh, I think he's just popped here in the.
Can you hear me, Jane?
Yeah. Any follow-up questions or thoughts?
No, yeah, I think it's so thanks for sharing that example. I think there's a lot of commonalities there. It's very similar. This is in biopharmaceuticals. So there's several different skill sets across the board, and there's the West Coast team, the East Coast team. We're pushing towards a very rapid, accelerated late phase 2 clinical program. So there's a lot of things that are being done very, very quickly and fast paced. There is a lot of, let's say, younger team members that are very eager to help in the California branch, but I think they're hesitant, perhaps with the CEO, to always make the decision. And so it creates a lot of, I would say, delays in the processing of that information and getting back to perhaps some of the other contractors that need to continue the work. So yeah, you really got my mind working now of thinking about maybe ways to bring this into the fold of the team to help them through this merger acquisition, and in particular the life cycle of where the brand is right now.
Seth, thank you. I know you
Awesome.
come from a complex world, having come from there myself. And yeah, I think when I experience the accelerator, it's the speed and the focus. It's like bringing people together, but keeping them super focused and having them figure out how to move forward together fast. Someone I was speaking to today, and we were talking about, the return to work, the hybrid and everything. And some of the things that she was reading, she was head of HR for a big finance company. She was saying things like there's going to be an attrition tsunami. Like people can work from anywhere and they're going to choose where to work and they're going to leave if they're not getting it. And when you have so much enthusiastic young talent that's hungry to share and contribute to the decisions and to remove the roadblocks because they're right by them, they're seeing them on their desk. This is an opportunity in a way to really empower that diverse talent that you're talking about. Thank you, Seth, for asking, and thank you, Renee and Mindy, for responding.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience before we move on? All right.
Okay.
So, how does the Team Accelerator work? And we've got 15 minutes left, and I know we want to share some success stories to help the audience visualize. So give us a high level, how does it work, Renee?
Yeah, and I'm so excited to talk about how it works because we have the awesome new graphic to share. That's the highlight of my webinars. I get to show the awesome graphic. So I really want to reinforce that with the Team Accelerator, your work really is the experience because it is a laboratory. You don't go away and then come back. You are literally in your work with a cohort of coworkers, with a learning group of peers. And it's a mission-based collaboration platform. Participants run experiments, solve problems, and develop critical team skills supported by expert coaching. And so what does that look like? Jane, if you can go, this is the graphic, guys. So
drum roll.
Basically we tackle the challenge of making progress together by teaching a methodology that participants then will use long after we've left the building. And we do that through a learning approach that is very collaborative and results focused. So because we're all about helping whole teams overcome their biggest barriers so they can make progress together, we build cohorts, ideally, of those whole teams, right? So it's a mix of 20 peers and leaders that ideally are delivering to shared goals, ideally the goals most critical to business success. You can have more than one cohort, of course, running at the same time. But then inside that cohort of 20, you'll have a learning group of 3 to 4 peers from your cohort that you work with each week. And inside that learning group is never your manager. So when we're spinning up the accelerator, you get your own platform, you get your own presence. We also work with somebody on your team to make sure that the cohorts and the learning groups are organized in such a way to remove discomfort, some of the discomfort that might come up when you might be in a learning group with your manager or your boss. And then what happens is every other Friday, a challenge is presented to the cohort. And we do that in the form of a mission. And it is written. It's like Mission Impossible, except the envelope doesn't blow up, but you basically are delivered a mission to the platform and your participants read it. And that kicks off the practice of doing all 4 steps of the Plum Gig methodology. So if you're looking at the graphic, we basically use the approach on the outside. You get a mission, you think about it, you reflect on the mission, you likely have some individual work you need to do because the mission includes alternative solutions. and or alternatives to consider and an experiment to run. We offer an explicit experiment to run, but how they do it, what alternative practice they decide to experiment, whether it's one we've suggested or one they go and hunt and gather on their own, all that is up to them. How they run the experiment, the hypotheses they form, all that is driven by the participant. And then they meet with their learning group to just like share ideas, and sometimes somebody might be in the learning group and it's like, I haven't read the mission yet. And then somebody else goes, oh, here's what it's about, right? And then somebody else in the learning group might have actually already started their experiment, or somebody's maybe not quite sure what to do. So the learning group helps each person think through what they want to do. And in some cases, the mission is a learning group mission. So then they use that learning group to do the experiment. What's the next thing? The chat is in the way. Okay. Oh yeah. Then they run their experiment. It's on the job. Remember, this is a common issue that they're facing right now, the mission. And so they're going to go do the work back at work. Then, and this is one of the parts that I really love, is they share their results. So we ask them to write up, what was your hypothesis? What did you try? What happened? So we're really driving a coaching, subtly driving a coaching approach through this work, this what's up, what matters, what's next. And when we ask them to share their results, we're really asking them to reflect and to think about, well, what really does this mean? What does this evidence tell me? They give and receive feedback to each other. So if you imagine everybody in the cohort is doing an experiment and sharing their results or posting or blogging about their results, and then they go in and they read other people's posts, other people's results, and offer a point of view, encouragement. Hey, did you think about this? Or what if you tried that? And then, and also the coaches are monitoring all this. So we're like keeping an eye on the activities. The coaches respond to every result that is posted to offer encouragement, ask coaching questions, etc. And then that same coach does a debrief with the cohort at the end of the 2-week cycle to just help them take all those individual experiences and insights and talk about, well, what do we want to do as a collective? So we really start to move from individual to system through that debrief. And then they're going to get their next mission. But in the meantime, the coach is now working with the HR partner to be like, okay, here's the themes that we saw emerge from this work. How do we want to talk about this with the executive team? How can the executive team help? What's the system impact that we might want to talk with them about so they can continue to support these amazing insights that the team is coming up with? That's how it works.
Renee, I have a question. One big
Yeah.
thing many leaders, HR's mind right now is coming back to work. And as we know, many companies are talking about the hybrid approach, a few days in the office, a few days at home. And depending on the type of team and the work that you have to do, that is potentially creating some challenges. And there's part of it that I think we believe is the mindset of the leader around open to ways that this can work moving forward versus the way it used to work. How might the Team Accelerator help with the hybrid, coming back to work, the hybrid environment and the friction and challenges that might cause?
Yeah. So, well, one, the entire experience is digital. So it echoes the way that work gets done in the business right now. But also, the first few missions we actually provide because there's a lot of common barriers out there. Decision making is a mission. It's called, what is it? Make Great Decisions. It's called Make Great Decisions. So we have some like that to just start to help teach so the participants can focus on learning the methodology versus sourcing their own challenges. But then very quickly we shift. We have a mission that helps us shift from the challenges we're sharing to the challenges they're experiencing. So basically in parallel, we're creating synthesis, we're creating interconnectedness, which just naturally helps with some of the challenges we're facing now in this world we're living in. But then the big barriers that the teams are actually facing, you put them in the accelerator. That's why the accelerator is a lab. it's your barriers. You get to decide what we do missions on. A few weeks in, you get to decide what you do missions on. So, for example, Jane, to go back to what you're saying, if indeed we start to see, oh wow, the virtual world this team is trying to live in is actually a barrier, we can turn that into a mission and really focus 2 weeks on trying to tackle it.
I have a quick build too, and I know we're getting short on time, so I promise I'll be brief. One of the things I've noticed in one of the clients' systems I'm coaching the accelerator in is they're dealing with just this. And there's a prevailing sort of judgment on the part of many leaders that, yeah, we got our work done transactionally, virtually, but we really believe that the office environment and the unstructured interactions really, help. That's where the magic happens. One of the things we notice in the accelerator is because of the design and the missions and the barriers that the teams are working on together, they actually can do both. They can transact the business of the team while building relationships. That one of the other clients we talked about with the 3 different divisions coming together, they had a relatedness and a shared experience, and none of them were in the same geographic location. So, we're noticing that level of ability to build the relationship as well as the work of the team can happen through the accelerator experience.
Yeah, the one thing that keeps coming up for me is from experience as a leader in corporate, as doing leadership team development for years, is let's let the team solve their own problems. And then I think, well, then why aren't they already doing this? Why is there still friction? Why are there still roadblocks? And so I don't have an answer for that. And we don't have time to explore that in itself. But it seems to me that this provides the framework of focus and to speed us up doing that. Right. In a way that's experimental, which I think nowadays, particularly with the hybrid, no one has the answers. Right? And one answer won't, the answers won't fit one team perfectly. Everything's very agile and we've got to try. And I love the experimental approach of this to say, okay, there is not one answer, but we've got to try different things. And why not start with the people that have got the problem, the friction, the roadblocks, and let them solve it together versus leadership coming in and trying to figure it out for them, which I've been guilty of in the past. I'd love to share a success story if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I got to try a mission with a Churchill team. It's a team of coaches. And my challenge that I was trying to solve for was, how do we scale the Churchill business without me being the roadblock because of the role that I was playing? How do we empower the coaches to expand the Churchill business and be more of who they need to be for more clients? So we took on one of the missions called decision making, and that was really, really helpful. And what really sort of, by going through the mission together, and I was a participant with the team, and I think we have some team members on the webinar today, so please add any thoughts in the chat. By going through the activity, I was really able to peel back the onion by nothing necessarily I was doing, by empowering the team to share and try and suggest and feed off each other. We really uncovered what was getting in their way. And so it was quite an eye-opener for me. It took a week, not a week full time, a couple of hours for each of us during that week. But 1 week later, I was super clear on what the team needs, not only in terms of the friction and the roadblocks, some of which I was causing, but the solution. So we did that within a week, which sort of blew my mind. I was been working on it for weeks, if not months in advance. And then I was able to work with the team to turn that into a plan, which we rolled out within several weeks of that. And so for me, it was the speed of it that was just so impressive. And I just couldn't have figured out how to do that in a better way. Otherwise, I would have already done it. So it was a great experience for me. I learned a lot, and I get in people's way. And this is a way to build that awareness for me and give me the confidence of what needed to work, what they needed to move forward. So thank you, for Renee, for allowing me and our Churchill team to have that experience. Would you like to share anything else before we close?
I kind of feel like we embedded our examples in, so you can keep going if you'd like.
Any final questions from our audience as we wrap up and move to our next Zooms? Thank you, everyone. All right, I do have a poll which I'll launch if you've got a chance to respond. Let me try and find this here.
Did you want to do next steps?
I will. I'm going to put the poll up as we do that. Thank you there. Next steps, we'll follow up in an email with you all. If you'd like to speak to Renee and Mindy further, then email me. We'll put this in the email and we'll set up that time. That's purely complimentary time, no commitment. But if you want to explore your problem more with the experts and find out how they can help you or give you more ideas, you're welcome to do that. We'll share some case studies in the same email, plus the link of how you can test for yourself a way of experimenting with a mini mission. So more value to come on the email. And thank you everyone for joining us. And big thank you to our guests, Renee and Mindy.
Bye, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thanks again.
Take care, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.